Okay guys, welcome back to the next talk. So today we heard a lot about scalability and layer 2 blockchains, and now I'm having here Sebastian Kugler with me from L2Beat, and he's going to talk about the state of layer 2s. A big round of applause.
Hi. I do research at L2Beat, and just to orient myself, could you maybe raise your hand if you've ever been to the website l2beat.com? Okay, a few. Nice. So, let me start by, why are we here at the Blockchain Conference? Probably because of blockchains, and if you like it or not, probably because of Bitcoin. But maybe you want some other attributes of your blockchain. Maybe you want them, the attributes to be resilience and neutrality, like for Bitcoin. Maybe you want them to be the blockchains fast and accessible for everyone, like with Solana. And maybe you are like sweating and you don't really know if you can like maybe have it all. You're thinking about the scalability trilemma and how you cannot really put security and speed together. And if you're in the Ethereum community, you kind of awkwardly press 3 buttons at once, right? So you're trying to have it all. You're trying to have the decentralization, the security, and the speed. And how do you do this? You make like a very complicated roadmap, and you try to parallelize things, right? You try to achieve them all, and yeah, I'm not going to go through this. But the rollup, the roadmap is called rollup centric, right? So, what is a rollup? Rollup is just some sort of scalability solution. I'm going to focus on Ethereum, so it's a scalability solution on Ethereum. And we're not sending our transaction out to every node, to every Ethereum node, and letting them execute it, but we're putting the execution off-chain. That's a rollup. And this is how we scale. And ideally, we kind of want to keep the decentralization and the good properties of the layer 1 of Ethereum. So if we are off-chaining more than execution, we're usually not a rollup. We don't call it rollup, but we call it layer 2, which is a broader term. So this is layer 2s. And this presentation is about the state of L2s, symbolized by this burning Ethereum in the valley. This is the state of L2s. You should all visit the website, l2beat.com. But I'm going to guide you through it a little bit. By the way, our website is free, and we don't serve ads or anything. We just do it for the culture. And we show you what are the risks, what are the additional trust assumptions that you make when using layer 2s. So the trust assumptions that come on top of the trust assumptions that you have anyway while using maybe Ethereum or other base blockchains. So to show you the risks, we have a risk framework, and we have a multi-dimensional one. This is the pizza one, and it has 5 dimensions. And we also have a single-dimensional one, which just gives you an overview. And it only has 3 stages, so you can have a very quick look. A stage 2 rollup would be very, very good. But as you can see, like basically no one has achieved stage 2, which is fine. We're on our way there. So I'm going to go through the multidimensional risks one by one, and I'm going to start with the, in my opinion, a very important one, and one of the most interesting, which is state validation. As you know, or I just said it, rollups usually put their execution off-chain, but in some way they will have to convince the layer 1 Ethereum of what they did off-chain, right? Because it was not executed on Ethereum. And this is called state validation. And we have two huge paradigms, which is optimistic rollups and zero-knowledge rollups. Maybe you were there when Jan was talking and you heard about zero-knowledge. It looks quite like SpongeBob looks very happy. It's actually the pessimistic form of state validation, because you are proving every off-chain state validation when you're going back to Ethereum. You're basically preemptively proving them, and you're using zero-knowledge proofs to prove it. For optimistic state validation, you're actually, you're optimistic. The dog maybe doesn't look optimistic, but he's very optimistic. And you basically say, if there's no one proving me wrong, proving the state validation wrong, then it's probably right. So for optimistic rollups to work and to really scale and to be secure, we need fraud proofs. This, as you can see on the left, is kind of a problem right now. So the optimistic rollups that you see on top, they all have the fraud proofs kind of in development. And for zero-knowledge rollups, we actually were quite fast. We expected zero-knowledge rollups to take forever, and we expected that we need optimistic rollups to bridge the time until we have working zero-knowledge proofs, but actually zero-knowledge proofs are quite far already. I wouldn't say much further than the fraud proofs, but at least they are in production already. Just keep in mind, these are not permissionless systems yet. Although you can see that the zero-knowledge rollups are giving you zero-knowledge proofs, some proofs are not complete, and all of the proofs are in not permissionless systems. So there would, in a bad case, there would always be a security council that has your back. And in this environment, we cannot speak of completely finished zero-knowledge proofs that are working in production. So the same applies to optimistic rollups. So let's talk about the fraud proofs. One of our very best researchers just released an article which is called The Fraud Proof Wars, which you should definitely read, and it's mostly about Arbitrum, Optimism, and Cartesi competing to have the most complete fraud-proof solution, or at least a fraud-proof solution that they can permissionlessly deploy in production. Actually, yesterday, Optimism re-released their fraud proofs. So this is what you see there is not in review anymore. We have finished reviewing it, and in result, Optimism is actually stage 1 now. So they have now a working fraud proofs, at least until today, for 24 hours, working fraud proofs in production. For Arbitrum, it's a bit different story. They have fraud proofs now for a long time, but they were always behind a whitelist. And this is because of delay attacks. So their fraud proofs are actually vulnerable and don't have promptness. If you look at this nice triangle, it shows another trilemma, which is also not a formalized trilemma or proven in any way, but at least in our until now, we see that you cannot have all the three usually if you're designing a fraud-proof system. So Arbitrum had this whitelist and still has it, but they are developing Bolt currently, which is a new fraud-proof solution which is supposed to be completely permissionless and have a better trade-off, make a better trade-off between this trilemma. So not have these delay attacks and still be secure and somehow not as decentralized because there's lots of bonds or very huge bonds. This is one of the most developed or most complete fraud-proof solutions. It's not live yet, but it has been audited already, and the paper is actually published for quite some time now. So I'm looking very much forward to that. But why is it so hard? Why do we only have one rollup so far that has actual permissionless fraud proofs since yesterday? It's so hard because there is, while developing fraud proofs, there appeared more and more types of attacks. For example, resource exhaustion, which comes from the fact that on the internet, you can be a dog, right? But on a blockchain, you can be like 1 million dogs if you want. And we always have this problem in blockchains. This is what blockchains also try to solve, the problem of cyber attacks. So if you have one honest challenger, which is usually what back in the day we thought you need for a fraud proof, you only need one honest party to make fraud proofs work. And the one honest party that stays honest will always win, we thought. If you have 1 million challenging this honest party, and the honest party has to pay gas to defend each of the others, the honest party is going to lose anyway, although the honest party was right. This is resource exhaustion. So this is one of the big problems in fraud proofs, and we're obviously working on it, as you can see in the latest proposals. The other attack would be delay attack. It's very similar. It's also Sybils, and it just delays the completion of the fraud-proof game for a very long time. So this problem with proofs is not only existent in fraud proofs or for optimistic rollups. I'm showing linear here, but actually kudos to them for being honest. Many current zero-knowledge proofs do still have problems, and they cannot prove everything that they need to prove at some point. So for example, for linear, it doesn't prove all the opcodes that it would need to prove to be a full ZK BIM. So to the next dimension. This is actually 2 dimensions. It's sequencer failure and proposer failure. So in your transaction pipeline on a layer 2 solution, it wouldn't be like on Ethereum mainnet where you just put your transaction in the mempool and then someone picks it up. But you actually give it to a sequencer, and this sequencer is supposed to build a block. And I say a sequencer because almost always it's just one, it's centralized. And same for proposers. Proposers are the ones that later propose the state to Ethereum. So, for example, the state that would get challenged in a fraud proof if it's wrong, or also the state that would get proven in a zero-knowledge proof. So these two, while centralized on layer 2s usually, you would really have to circumvent them in the worst case, because they are centralized. They could do that. They could just censor you. They could censor your withdrawal. They could, yeah. So you want to be prepared for sequencer failure. And sequencer failure, the state of sequencer failure is still, it's kind of less a problem than proposer failure, but it goes together, so you want both. So there's very few solutions where you actually would be safe if the sequencer and the proposer, which is often even the same party, where you would be able to self-propose and self-sequence. So for this, we actually need complete ZK proofs, because the problem with proposing is, again, that if you are, for example, able to circumvent the centralized party that wants to sequence a transaction, and the proposer in the zero knowledge rollup proposes the new state, or you propose the new state, then someone would have to prove it. And if your zero knowledge proof cannot prove everything, cannot prove every opcode, then I could just use this opcode that's unprovable, and the rollup wouldn't work. So this is the problem of if you make it permissionless. And this is why most zero knowledge rollups are not yet able to permissionlessly let you propose new states. So the exit window kind of depends on the last two. The exit window is kind of we show you a worst case scenario. In this worst case where everything goes wrong, like the sequencer censors you, the proposer censors you, there is an upgrade, someone wants to upgrade the bridge of the rollup, wants to steal all funds. So if everything goes wrong, how much time would you have to react? And there you can see actually the power, or what we want rollups to be. They should be scaling solutions, they should be cheap and fast, but at the same time, if everything goes wrong and everyone censors you, you should still be able to exit. And that's the magic, or the nice thing about trust minimized bridges. But as you can see, we're on our way there. Like, probably OP mainnet, if you look on the website now, should also have an exit window, but from the big rollups, it's only Arbitrum, and you only have 2 days. Usually we want this to be 7 days at least. So this depends on the other properties, kind of, that we get better exit windows. Data availability is a nicer story. It's actually right now, you can get very, very secure and very cheap data availability right on Ethereum. So if you're a rollup, you can put your data on Ethereum definitely at the moment, but also this definitely needs to scale because more and more are using it, and we're probably soon reaching the blob limit and costs will increase. So yeah, data availability, you probably know where you need it, but data availability is especially needed if you imagine you want to exit the rollup. You usually have to prove that you exited your funds on the layer 2. So a classical attack would be that your data is not available in the moment that you want to withdraw, so you cannot withdraw. This would also give you no way to exit. So you definitely need data availability, and it's nice to put it on Ethereum. But there's other solutions. If you got huge amounts of data, Ethereum is not able to handle that. And you got lots of other solutions like data availability committees, like a few people that attest that data was made available to them. There is Celestia, a whole blockchain that attests that data was made available. And there's crazy solutions where they basically put your data in a basement and say, it's probably somewhere. And we also help you there. So if you go on our website, you can see what the data availability solutions are, what the layer 2s are using as data availability, and how secure it is. And actually, one of our very best researchers, we are only 4 researchers, so everyone is one of our best. He cooked up a framework which gives you another familiar thing, although it's more edgy and has different dimensions. But we will guide you through the jungle of where people put your data. This will be live soon, by the way. What about L3s? L3s are kind of L2s on L2s. You would expect that the risks add up, but they rather multiply, or you get the worst of it. So right now, it's a terrible solution. We definitely need more improved layer 2s for that. And for example, putting fraud proofs on the current layer 2s would make absolutely no sense. So putting a fraud proof layer 3, an optimistic layer 3 with fraud proofs on an L2 would not work. Like, as you can see in this conversation, you would need a huge delay, like how many months? 3 months in the worst case to settle a fraud proof, one dispute on Arbitrum, for example. Obviously Arbitrum is working on it, everyone's working on it, but we're not there yet. Okay, something else about validation. What we usually do for you is we check the smart contracts. We don't really read the documentation of the rollups, but we check their smart contracts on chain, and we tell you about the risks. And for us to be able to read the smart contracts, we cannot really query an Ethereum node because we would get back bytecode. So we go through to Etherscan and we see the verified contracts, we read the Solidity code, and we kind of try to interpret it. And we also show you if we, for example, here cannot read the source because it's not published. So this is like a central thing that you need to read the source code. This works for Solidity, right? But yeah, we cannot read this. I mean, it's numbers, but this is a ZK verifier implemented, for example, for a rollup, or this is the semaphore verifier for WorldCoin. So this verifies zero-knowledge proofs, but it's super hard to actually understand. It's impossible to understand what it does. And this is also because this is basically a compiled Circom code. So we also have another solution. That's again the same, one of our best researchers that did this, and it's called ZK Catalog. And this will give you like a source verification for zero-knowledge verifiers. So there's a lot more work to verify these types of contracts, but in the end, we can attest to a verifier actually doing what it's supposed to do by reading, for example, the Circom source. And we will not be able to do this on our own. By the way, it can also be unsuccessful, like it was for WorldCoin, for one of their verifiers. And we cannot do this on our own, so we kind of wanted to be a community thing where community members can actually attest to themselves having verified these verifiers. So you can check it out, it's live. Yeah, zero-knowledge proofs. Jan already gave the very nice technical overview. You can see that also in my presentation it's very present that zero-knowledge proofs are the future, and they're also the present. Like you can see in the rollups, there will obviously be zero-knowledge proofs in the fraud proofs of the optimistic rollups. So even optimistic rollups will have a lot to do with zero-knowledge proofs. Maybe you saw today Succinct actually released the zero-knowledge proofs for the OP stack, so now you can easily switch from being an optimistic to a zero-knowledge rollup if you want to change the camps. Yeah, so this is definitely like central to our development. Another thing that's central is the fraud proofs. And yesterday, Optimism, since yesterday we have permissionless fraud proofs on mainnet. we will see lots of more stage 1 soon, which is really awesome. I'm very much looking forward to it because it was hard to have so many stage 0 projects on our site. And also stage 1 is really a stage that is kind of secure. And yeah, I'm looking forward to based rollups. This is kind of an outlook, maybe you can see. I'm very much looking forward to based rollups, pre-confirmations in based rollups, multi-proofs like with TEs and so on. We will see lots of that in the future, in the very near future, and data availability sampling to make data availability even more scalable on Ethereum. Yeah, you should definitely do your own research, and you should do it using tools like our site. This is, for me at least, this is kind of the essence of blockchain, that it's transparent and that it's trustless, but for that you obviously have to do your research. And also, obviously, decentralization, you kind of have to live it and fight for it, because otherwise we're going to lose sight of it. And yeah, for example, L2Beat is very much working on basically setting the standards for layer 2s. But you can do it too. And that's already it. If you have questions, you can ask them now, I think. And if you're shy, you can also use Telegram or Signal. Thanks.